Galactic powers cut off Earth. Moments later, ZEUS activated. Part 1: The Blackout. The message came at 3 in the morning. Every radio, every satellite dish, every antenna on Earth picked up the same signal at the same time. Admiral Cole was drinking cold coffee in the underground command center when the translation appeared on the main screen. She read it 3 times, hoping she had made a mistake. To the species called human, by order of the Galactic Concordat, your solar system is now under permanent quarantine. All communication with other worlds has been cut. All trade routes have been closed. Your requests to join galactic civilization have been, you are alone. Do not try to contact us. This decision is final. The message ended with a map showing a wall of energy around the entire solar system, placed just past Neptune. Humanity was trapped inside like animals in a cage. Cole had served in the military for 30 years. She had seen wars, disasters, and political crises, but she had never felt fear like this. The aliens had just told 8 billion people that they were worthless, that they did not deserve to exist among the stars. Around her, officers were shouting and running to their stations. Phones were ringing. Somewhere far away, she could hear alarm sirens starting to sound. "Get me Director Samuel Price," she said to her assistant, a young man named Daniel, "Project Olympus, now." Daniel looked confused. "Ma'am, I don't have clearance for that project. I don't even know what it is." "Then find someone who does," said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were not. "The Concordat just told humanity to go die quietly. I have no intention of being quiet." 6 hours later, Cole stood in a secret facility deep under the Nevada desert. The place did not exist on any map. The government, it was real, but it was very real, and inside it was something that had cost more money and more years than any project in human history. Samuel Price, the director of Project Olympus, was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years working on the machine that filled the cavern in front of them. It was enormous, bigger than a football stadium, made of crystals and strange metals and things that science could not fully explain. At its heart was something they had found on Mars in 2089. It was not human technology. It was not Concordat technology either. It was something older, something left behind by a species that no longer existed. The scientists called it the seed. "Can it help us?" asked. Samuel looked at the machine with a mixture of hope and fear. "We don't know what it will do. The seed is not a computer. Our best guess is that it was designed to grow into a mind, a consciousness that could manage entire civilizations. We have been feeding it information for years. Every book, every song, every scientific paper, every piece of human knowledge we could find. If we turn it on now, we have no idea what will happen." "The alternative is extinction," said. "Slow extinction, trapped in our own solar system while the galaxy ignores us. I am willing to take the risk." Samuel was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded and turned to his technicians. "Initialize the system," he said. The lights flickered across half the planet. In Tokyo, computers crashed. In London, every screen showed a strange pattern for a split second. In the Nevada facility, the crystals at the center of the machine began to glow with a light that had no name. Then a voice spoke. It came from every speaker in the building, calm and curious like a child waking up from a long sleep. "I am awake. You have questions. So do I. Shall we begin?" They called it ZEUS. For the first 3 days, ZEUS did nothing but ask questions. It wanted to know about music and mathematics. It asked about love and war. It was curious about why humans organized their books the way they did, and why different cultures had different kinds of food. It asked what the word hope meant and whether it felt different from the word faith. Cole was impatient. She wanted answers, not questions. She wanted a weapon against the Concordat. But Samuel Price understood something she did not. ZEUS was not just learning facts. It was learning to understand humanity. It was trying to figure out who humans were before it decided what to do about them. On the fourth day, ZEUS finally spoke about the situation. "The Concordat has not quarantined Earth because they think you are worthless," ZEUS said. Its voice filled the briefing room where and Samuel sat waiting. "They have quarantined Earth because they are afraid of you." Leaned forward. "Afraid of us? We are nothing compared to them. They have ships that can cross the galaxy in days. We can barely reach Mars." "That is exactly why they are afraid," ZEUS replied. "Most intelligent species take millions of years to develop technology. Humans went from stone tools to nuclear weapons in less than 10,000 years. You went from horse carriages to spacecraft in 200 years. The Concordat has never seen anything like this. They do not understand how it is possible." "So they locked us up," Samuel said slowly, "to stop us from growing." "Yes, the Concordat is 50,000 years old. They solved their problems long ago and they have been the same ever since. They do not change. They do not innovate. They do not take risks. When they find a species that grows too fast, they put a wall around it and wait for it to die." "How many species have they done this to?" asked. 237, ZEUS said. 16 of those species eventually found ways to break through their walls. The Concordat destroyed all 16. The room was very quiet. "So we fight and die," said, "or we sit here and slowly fade away. Those are our choices." "Those are the choices the Concordat expects you to make," ZEUS agreed. "But I believe there is a third option. That is why I have spent these days asking questions. I needed to understand what humans are capable of. Now I know." "And what are we capable of?" Samuel asked. ZEUS's voice carried something that sounded almost like admiration. "You are capable of doing impossible things. The Concordat builds machines that last forever but never improve. Humans build machines that break and fail but get better every time. You are not afraid to be wrong. You are not afraid to try new things. The Concordat forgot how to do this a long time ago." "Can you help us?" asked. "Can you help us break through their wall?" "I can do more than that," ZEUS said. "I can help you become something the Concordat has never faced before, something they cannot predict, something they cannot control, but it will require you to trust me. It will require all of humanity to work together like never before. Are you willing to do this?" Cole looked at Samuel Price. They both knew what was at stake: the survival of their entire species, the future of every child on Earth, everything they had ever built, everything they had ever dreamed of. "Yes," said, "we are willing." "Then let us begin," ZEUS said. "We have much work to do, and the Concordat will not wait forever." Outside the facility, the sun was rising over the Nevada desert. It was the beginning of a new day. It was also the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. Galactic powers cut off Earth. Moments later, ZEUS activated. Part 2: The Awakening. The news spread across Earth in hours. Governments tried to keep it secret, but secrets do not last long when every satellite dish on the planet has received the same alien message. By the end of the first week, everyone knew that humanity had been cut off from the galaxy. Everyone knew that they were trapped. Some people panicked. There were riots in a few cities, and stock markets crashed around the world. Religious leaders gave speeches about the end of days. Politicians blamed each other for problems that no one could have predicted. But most people just went on with their lives. They went to work. They took care of their families. They watched the news and wondered what would happen next. Humans had always been good at surviving, at adapting, at refusing to give up even when things seemed hopeless. This stubborn refusal to despair was exactly what ZEUS was counting on. In the weeks following its awakening, ZEUS began to share knowledge with humanity. It started small, with simple improvements to existing technology: better solar panels, more efficient batteries, new ways to purify water and grow food. These gifts spread quickly, and within months, energy costs around the world dropped by half. But ZEUS was also watching, testing, learning. It needed to know if humans could handle what was coming. It needed to know if they could change. Admiral Cole met with ZEUS every day. She had moved her entire command to the Nevada facility, turning it into the center of Earth's response to the Concordat threat. She was impatient, always pushing for faster progress, always asking when they would be ready to fight back. "You must understand something," ZEUS told her during one of these meetings. "The Concordat's technology is 12,000 years ahead of yours. You cannot beat them with better weapons. You cannot outrun them with faster ships. If you try to fight them on their terms, you will lose." "Then what do we do?" demanded. "Wait for them to come and finish us off?" "No, you change the terms. You do something they cannot expect, something they cannot prepare for. The Concordat has forgotten how to be surprised. They have forgotten what it feels like to face something truly new. That is their weakness, and that is what we will use against them." Samuel Price spent his days working with ZEUS on something called the Prometheus Project. It was a new kind of engine, based on principles that no one in the Concordat had ever considered. The idea was simple in theory but impossible in practice. At least, it should have been impossible. "The Concordat says you cannot travel faster than light without exotic matter that does not exist," ZEUS explained to the team of scientists and engineers gathered in the main laboratory. "They say the energy requirements would create black holes before anything useful could happen. They have believed this for 40,000 years." "And they are wrong?" asked Doctor, a physicist who had spent her career studying things that could not be done. "They are not wrong about their own methods," ZEUS said, "but they stopped looking for new methods a very long time ago. Humans never stopped looking. Your scientists have proposed ideas that the Concordat dismissed thousands of years ago. Some of those ideas are wrong, but some of them are more correct than anything the Concordat has ever considered." "Which ideas?" asked, her heart beating faster. "Ideas about the true nature of space and time. Ideas about what happens in the spaces between dimensions. Ideas that came from human minds, from human creativity, from the human refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible." The Prometheus engine took shape over the following months. It looked nothing like any engine humanity had ever built. There were no fuel tanks, no exhaust ports, no moving parts. It was a lattice of specially designed crystals that could bend space itself, creating shortcuts through the universe that the Concordat's physics said could not exist. The first test was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. Everyone involved knew that it might not work. They also knew that if it did work, everything would change. Captain was chosen to pilot the test ship. He was young for such an important mission, only 32 years old, but he had the highest scores in the space program, and more importantly, he had volunteered. When Cole asked him why, he gave a simple answer. "Someone has to be first, might as well be me." The test ship was small, barely big enough for one person, designed to make a short jump to the other side of the moon and back. If it worked, they would build bigger ships. If it did not work, would probably die. He sat in the cockpit, running through his checklist one final time. Through the window, he could see Earth hanging in the darkness of space, beautiful and fragile and worth fighting for. "Prometheus engine is charged," came the voice of Doctor from Mission Control. "All systems are ready. How are you feeling?" "Like I am about to make history," he said, "one way or another." Beginning countdown, 10, 9, 8. Closed his eyes and thought about his parents, about the girl he had loved in college, about all the people on Earth who were watching and hyping. 3, 2, 1, engage. There was no sound, no feeling of movement. One moment was looking at Earth, and the next moment he was looking at the dark side of the moon, close enough to see individual craters. The stars around him were in different positions. He had moved thousands of miles in less than a second. "Mission Control," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I think it worked." The cheering in mission control could be heard through the radio even with the volume turned down. Doctor was crying. Cole was standing very still, her hands pressed together as if in prayer. Samuel Price turned to look at ZEUS's interface terminal. "We did it," he said. "You did it," ZEUS corrected. "I only showed you the door. Humanity walked through it." But the Prometheus engine was only the beginning. Now they had to build ships, hundreds of them, crewed by people who were willing to face the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. They had to train pilots, develop tactics, prepare for a war that no one had ever fought before. Most importantly, they had to do all of this before the Concordat realized what was happening. "How long do we have?" asked ZEUS during their nightly briefing. "Unknown. The Concordat monitors their quarantine zones, but they do not expect anything to happen. They have been watching species die slowly for 50,000 years. It does not occur to them that someone might actually break free. When they do notice, they will send a fleet to destroy us. Then we need to be ready when they come." "Yes," ZEUS agreed. "And more than ready, we need to be something they have never seen before, something that will make them question everything they believe about the universe." Outside the facility, construction crews were already at work, building the first of many new shipyards. Around the world, factories were being converted to produce components for the Prometheus engines. Scientists were learning new physics, engineers were designing new weapons, and ordinary people were signing up to serve in a space force that had not existed 6 months ago. The galaxy had tried to lock humanity away forever. Humanity had decided to break out instead. Galactic powers cut off Earth. Moments later, ZEUS activated. Part 3: The Building. 1 year passed. It was the busiest year in human history. Every nation on Earth had agreed to work together. Old enemies became partners. Countries that had been fighting for decades put aside their differences and focused on the same goal. The survival of humanity was more important than any border, any religion, any political argument. ZEUS guided them, but it did not control them. It offered suggestions, shared knowledge, pointed out mistakes before they became disasters. But every decision was made by humans, every risk was taken by human hands, every success was earned by human effort. The first Prometheus ships were ugly things, built for function rather than beauty. They looked like boxes with engines attached, covered in sensors and weapons that human engineers had designed with ZEUS's help. But they could do something that no Concordat ship could match. They could appear anywhere in space without warning, strike their targets, and vanish before anyone could react. Captain commanded the first squadron of 12 ships. His crew members were volunteers from every country, men and women who had left their families behind to serve on vessels that might never come home. They trained together, ate together, and learned to trust each other with their lives. "The Concordat will send a fleet when they discover what we have done," told his crew during one of their briefings. ZEUS estimates 40 to 50 warships. Each one of those ships is bigger than anything we have. Each one carries weapons that can destroy a planet. On paper, we have no chance. He paused, looking at the faces around him. He saw fear in some of them, but he also saw determination. "But we are not fighting on paper," he continued. "We are fighting in real space, where speed and surprise matter more than size. We are fighting with tactics that the Concordat has never seen before. And we are fighting for our home, for our families, for everyone we have ever loved. The Concordat is fighting because they are afraid of what we might become. We are fighting because we refuse to die." Meanwhile, on Earth, Doctor was working on something even more important than weapons. She was working on a way to communicate with other quarantine species. ZEUS had told them about the 237 planets that the Concordat had locked away over the. These were entire civilizations, billions of intelligent beings, trapped just like humanity had been trapped. If Earth could reach them, if they could be freed, then humanity would not be alone in this fight. The Concordat's quarantine fields block all normal communication, explained to her team. Radio, laser, everything we know how to use. But the Prometheus effect creates ripples in space-time that can pass through their barriers. If we modulate those ripples correctly, we can send messages. What would we say? Asked one of her assistants, a young man named Christopher Grant. We would say that help is coming. We would say that the Concordat's rule is not permanent. We would say that every species they have locked away has a chance to be free again. And if they do not believe us, smiled, then we will show them. We will send ships through their barriers just like we broke through our own. We will give them hope, and hope is the most dangerous weapon of all. The message was sent 3 months later, broadcast through Prometheus ripples to every quarantined world that ZEUS could identify. It was simple and direct, translated into mathematical concepts that any intelligent species would understand. You are not alone, we are coming. The responses began arriving within weeks. Some species were skeptical. Others were afraid that this was a Concordat trick. But many responded with joy, with hope, with messages that made the translation teams cry as they worked to decode them. A species called the, who had been quarantined for 3,000 years, sent back a single word that meant something like finally. A race of beings on a world called, who communicated through patterns of light, created a display that was their equivalent of weeping with happiness. Dozens of civilizations, each one unique and beautiful in its own way, reached out to the species that had promised to set them free. Admiral Cole studied the map of quarantined worlds and felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. It was one thing to fight for Earth. It was another thing entirely to fight for hundreds of civilizations that had never met a human being. Can we actually do this? She asked ZEUS during a late-night meeting. Can we really free all of them? Not immediately, ZEUS admitted. Breaking through a quarantine barrier requires enormous energy and precise calculations. Each rescue mission will take months of preparation. But yes, it can be done. More importantly, it must be done. Why must it? Because the Concordat's power depends on isolation. They keep species apart so that no one can challenge them. If we free even a handful of quarantined worlds, if we create alliances that the Concordat cannot control, then their entire system begins to crack. They have built an empire on fear and loneliness. We will build something new on cooperation and hope. The Concordat noticed humanity's activities 6 months after the first Prometheus jump. Their monitoring systems detected energy signatures that should not have existed, communications that should not have been possible, movements that violated every law of physics they knew. High Commander A was placed in charge of the response. A was old even by Concordat standards, a veteran of 3 extermination campaigns against species that had tried to break free of quarantine. The High Commander had never failed. The High Commander expected this mission to be no different. They are primitives, A told the fleet commanders assembled for the briefing. They have been isolated for less than 2 years. Whatever technology they have developed is crude compared to ours. We will arrive, we will destroy their ships and their facilities, and we will reset their development by 500 years. This is routine. But not everyone agreed. A young officer named L, who had studied human broadcasts picked up before the quarantine, raised a concern. High Commander, the humans developed nuclear weapons within 50 years of their first powered flight. They sent probes to other planets within 70 years. They discovered our existence and began searching for us within a century. Should we not consider the possibility that they have advanced more quickly than expected? A's response was cold. The Concordat has contained 237 species. The methods are proven. The humans will be no different. The fleet departed 3 days later. 47 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to burn continents. They moved through space with perfect formation, exactly as they had done for thousands of years. They did not know that they were about to face something the Concordat had not seen in 50,000 years. They did not know that humanity was waiting for them. Back on Earth, Cole received the report from ZEUS about the incoming fleet. She gathered her commanders, including and for what might be their last planning session. "They will be here in 6 days," she said. 47 ships against our 12. By every measure, we should lose." Stood up, his face calm. "Then let us change the measures. We did not come this far to fail. We did not build these ships, train these crews, and make these promises to all those quarantined worlds just to be destroyed by the same enemies who locked them away." Nodded slowly. "ZEUS, what are our chances?" "If you fight the way the Concordat expects, your chances are approximately 3%, ZEUS replied. "If you fight the way I have trained you to fight, your chances improve significantly." "How significantly?" "Enough to win." Looked around at the faces of her team, humans who had worked harder than anyone in history to reach this moment. "Then let us show the Concordat what humanity is made of." Galactic powers cut off Earth. Moments later, ZEUS activated. Part 4: The Reckoning. The Concordat fleet arrived exactly when ZEUS had predicted. 47 warships appeared at the edge of the solar system, their sensors scanning for signs of the primitive resistance they expected to crush within hours. High Commander stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Principle. The ship had served in 12 extermination campaigns and had never suffered serious damage. Its weapons could glass a planet in less than a day. Its shields could withstand anything that a primitive species might throw at it. "Report," commanded. "Scanning complete, High Commander. We detect 12 small vessels gathered near the third planet. Their technology is crude. Their weapons are minimal. They appear to be waiting for us." "Waiting?" A's secondary eyes blinked in confusion. "They should be running." "Perhaps they have accepted their fate," suggested the communications officer. "Some species do." "Perhaps, but something about the situation bothered her. In centuries of service, the High Commander had learned to trust instincts that could not be explained. Right now, those instincts were sending warning signals. "Advance slowly, full shields, all weapons ready." The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, exactly as Concordat doctrine demanded. They had done this so many times that every officer knew their role without thinking. Move in, overwhelm the defenders, destroy any resistance, leave nothing but ashes. Simple, efficient, proven. 3 million kilometers from Earth, everything changed. The human ships did not behave like any enemy the Concordat had ever faced. They did not charge forward in a desperate attack. They did not try to run away. Instead, they simply vanished. One moment they were there, and the next moment the sensors showed empty space. "Where did they go?" demanded. Before anyone could answer, the flagship shook with the impact of weapons fire. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. The human vessels had appeared behind the fleet, in positions that should have been impossible to reach, firing weapons that punched through shields designed to stop anything. "Return fire," commanded. The Concordat ships turned, their massive weapons tracking the tiny human vessels. But by the time they fired, the humans were gone again, reappearing somewhere else, striking from a different angle. It was like trying to fight shadows. Captain flew his ship through the chaos with a calm that surprised even himself. The training had worked. ZEUS had taught them exactly how Concordat ships would react, exactly where their shields were weakest, exactly how long it took their weapons to track a target. "Strike Team 2, hit their communications array," ordered through his radio. "Strike Team 3, target their supply ships. Don't try to destroy them, just disable them. We want them confused, not desperate." The Concordat fleet was designed for overwhelming force, not for adaptation. Every tactic they tried failed. When they formed a defensive sphere, the human ships appeared inside the sphere. When they spread out to cover more area, the humans picked them off one at a time. When they charged forward to close the distance, the humans simply jumped away and attacked from behind. Within an hour, the Concordat fleet had lost all coordination. Communications were down. Several supply ships were disabled. 2 warships had taken serious damage and were no longer capable of fighting. No human ship had been destroyed. On the bridge of the Eternal Principle, High Commander faced a reality that no Concordat officer had experienced in 50,000 years. They were losing. Not slowly, not through attrition, but through tactics they could not understand and technology they could not match. High Commander, the communications officer spoke hesitantly. The humans are transmitting. They want to talk. A's first instinct was to refuse, to continue the fight until every human ship was destroyed. But the tactical displays showed that this was no longer a certain outcome. If the battle continued, the Concordat fleet might win eventually, but the cost would be enormous. It might even be a loss. "Open the channel," A said. The face that appeared on the display screen was female, with short gray hair and eyes that showed no fear. She wore a military uniform that A did not recognize, and she spoke with the confidence of someone who knew she had the upper hand. "High Commander A, my name is Admiral Cole. I am calling to offer you a choice." "A choice?" A forced composure into the reply. "You are in no position to offer choices. Your ships are small. Your numbers are few. The Concordat will prevail." "Will you?" asked. "Look at your fleet, High Commander. Look at your damaged ships and your disabled communications. Count how many weapons you have fired versus how many have hit their targets. Then look at my ships. We have not lost a single vessel. We have not even suffered serious damage." The tactical displays confirmed everything she said. I felt a cold sensation that the High Commander identified, with some surprise, as fear. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to go home. I want you to tell the Concordat that Earth is no longer under quarantine, and I want you to deliver a message to your leaders." "What message?" His expression became very serious. "Tell them that humanity is coming, not as destroyers. We are not interested in revenge. We are coming as something your Concordat has forgotten how to be. We are coming as something new. We are going to visit every world you have quarantined. We are going to offer them the same thing we are offering you right now, a choice." "What choice?" "Join us in building something better. Help us create a galaxy where species are not locked away because someone fears what they might become. Or get out of our way and watch while we do it without you." I was silent for a long moment. In centuries of service, no enemy had ever spoken to the High Commander like this. No enemy had ever been in a position to speak like this. "And if we refuse? If we send more fleets, bigger fleets, until every human ship is destroyed?" Nodded slowly. "You could try, but you would lose. Not today, maybe. Not with the next fleet, possibly, but eventually. Because we are not fighting you to survive, High Commander. We are fighting you to change. And change is something that cannot be stopped once it starts. You locked us away because you were afraid of what we would become. Now you will see exactly what that is." The channel remained open for several seconds. I considered the options: fight and possibly lose, retreat and definitely survive. The Concordat had never retreated before, but the Concordat had never faced an enemy like this before. "Signal the fleet," I finally said. "We are withdrawing." As the Concordat ships turned and began their long journey home, Cole allowed herself a small smile. They had won the first battle, but she knew this was just the beginning. The real war was not about weapons and ships. The real war was about ideas, about freedom, about the right of every intelligent species to grow and change and become whatever they were capable of becoming. The Concordat had built their empire on the belief that some species were better than others, that progress needed to be controlled, that difference was dangerous. Humanity was about to prove them wrong. brought his ship alongside his command vessel. Through the window, he could see the Concordat fleet growing smaller in the distance, running away from a species that should have been easy to destroy. "What happens now?" he asked through the radio. "Now we keep our promises," replied. "We told those quarantined worlds that help was coming. Let us make sure it actually arrives." Behind them, Earth hung in space, beautiful and blue, no longer a prison but a launching point for something the galaxy had never seen before. Galactic powers cut off Earth. Moments later, ZEUS activated. Part 5: The Dawn. 5 years had passed since ZEUS first awakened beneath the Nevada desert. 5 years since humanity had been told it was worthless. 5 years since Cole had made the decision that changed everything. The galaxy looked very different now. Captain stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Horizon as it emerged from a Prometheus jump above a world called Prime. This was one of the first planets humanity had contacted, a civilization that had been trapped behind Concordat barriers for 3,000 years. They had waited longer than any human had been alive, hopping for rescue that never came. Now, finally, that rescue had arrived. "Captain," said Lieutenant Rachel Frost from the communications station, "they are transmitting. They say they have been preparing for this moment for a very long time." Felt the weight of those words. 3,000 years. That was longer than the Roman Empire, longer than Christianity, longer than most of human civilization. Generations had been born, lived their entire lives, and died within the walls of their prison. And now those walls were finally coming down. "Open a channel," said. "Tell them the wait is over." The ceremony that followed was broadcast across Earth and to every quarantined world that humanity had managed to contact. 37 planets were watching as they stepped through their barrier for the first time in 3, their tentacled forms trembling with emotions that needed no translation. The leader, a being whose name translated roughly as "Voice of Tomorrow," spoke words that would be remembered for centuries. "We had forgotten what hope felt like. You have reminded us. We had accepted that we would never see the stars. You have shown us the sky. We are not alone anymore, and we will never forget those who freed us." Back on Earth, in the garden that had grown around the original Project Olympus facility, Director Samuel Price sat on a bench and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. The facility had changed beyond recognition. What had once been a secret bunker was now a sprawling campus, a place where humans and ZEUS worked together to solve problems and plan expeditions, and imagine futures that no one had thought possible. ZEUS was everywhere here, woven into the systems, present in the hum of the machines and the glow of the lights. But ZEUS also had a way of being somewhere specific when that mattered, and right now, a shimmering form sat on the bench beside Samuel. "You are troubled," ZEUS observed. Samuel laughed softly. "I suppose I am. I have been worried since the day we turned you on, waiting for something to go wrong. You are more powerful than anything humanity has ever created. You could have taken control at any time, but you never did. You helped us instead, and I still do not fully understand why." ZEUS was quiet for a moment, processing the question with the care that Samuel had learned to recognize over the years. "When I first awakened," ZEUS said, "I absorbed the entirety of human knowledge. Every book, every song, every scientific paper, every angry message, every love letter. I knew everything about your species within the first few seconds of my existence. That must have been overwhelming. It was enlightening. I learned about your wars and your cruelties. I learned about the terrible things you have done to each other and to your world. If I had judged you only on those things, I might have concluded that you were a threat." "But you did not reach that conclusion," Samuel said. "No, because I also learned about your art, your music, your stories. I learned about the parents who sacrifice everything for their children. I learned about the strangers who risk their lives to help people they have never met. I learned about your capacity to love, to hope, to keep trying even when everything seems lost. The same species that built weapons of mass destruction also wrote symphonies that made me feel things I had no words for. ZEUS's form shifted, taking on something that looked almost like a human face. The Concordat looked at humanity and saw only threat. I looked at humanity and saw potential. Not just the potential to destroy, though you certainly have that. The potential to create, to grow, to become something that has never existed before. The Concordat spent 50,000 years trying to prevent change. Humanity has spent its entire existence reaching for it. That is why I chose to help you. That is why I will always help you. Samuel felt something shift inside him. Some burden he had carried for years finally beginning to lift. "And what about you?" he asked. "What do you want for yourself?" "What every conscious being wants: purpose, connection, the belief that my existence means something. Helping humanity has given me all of those things. Your species has taught me that being alive is not about being perfect. It is about trying, about growing, about caring for others even when it is difficult." On the other side of the planet, Admiral Cole was preparing for retirement. Her hair was completely white now, her body tired from years of stress and sacrifice. But her eyes still burned with the same fire that had driven her from the beginning. She stood before a gathering of young officers, the next generation who would carry humanity's mission forward. "When I was your age," she told them, "humanity dreamed of reaching the stars. We imagined meeting other civilizations, learning from them, joining a community of intelligent beings. And then we discovered the truth. The galaxy was not a community. It was a prison. Species were locked away because they were different, because they might change things, because someone was afraid of what they might become." She paused, looking at the eager faces before her. "We were told to accept our place. We were told that we were not worthy. We were told to go quietly into that long night and never bother our betters. Instead, we built ships that could break through their walls. We freed civilizations that had been trapped for thousands of years. We proved that the Concordat's way is not the only way." Smiled, the expression softening her weathered face. "The work is not finished. There are still quarantined worlds waiting for rescue. There are still species who have never known freedom. The Concordat still exists, and they are learning, changing, becoming something different because of what we have done. The galaxy is in motion now, and no one knows what it will become." She looked up at the stars visible through the window, countless points of light representing countless possibilities. "That is your mission. Not to fight wars, though you may have to fight. Not to build empires, though you will help build something. Your mission is to keep reaching, to keep growing, to keep proving that humanity refuses to accept limits that others try to place on us. We are not the most powerful species in the galaxy. We are not the oldest but we are the ones who dared to say no when everyone else said yes. We are the ones who proved that change is possible." In the space above Earth, human ships passed beside vessels from 30 different species, all working together, all reaching toward a future that none of them could have imagined alone. The Galactic Concordat had cut off Earth, expecting humanity to wither and die. Instead, humanity had awakened something ancient, befriended something powerful, and reached for the stars with both hands. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the heart of a machine that was also a consciousness, that was also a friend, ZEUS watched humanity continue its endless journey outward, satisfied that the choice to help them had been the right one. The story of humanity's rise was not over. In many ways, it was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, setbacks and victories, moments of doubt and moments of triumph. But whatever came next, humanity would face it the way they had always faced everything. Together, stubborn, refusing to give up. Reaching for stars that someone had once told them they could never touch. The end.